and welcome to the Vegan Stew. I am Helene. I am one of 6 that are here today. And guess what? We are now 7 stew crew people, women, who are going to enjoy some discourse and current events and like everything vegan. And we're going to let you know that we can have a conversation, potentially disagree, and show you that we're all love one another at the end of the hour that you are joining us. So let me say thank you to Terra Seed for being our sponsor this month. And I want to do a shout out to all the stew crews, everything that we do: Plant Powered Studios, Vegan Street, The Tilted Planet on YouTube, Total Body Lab, Vegan Pop Eats, and Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. Did I miss anybody? I don't think so. And I'm reading the bottom to make sure, but I think I got everybody. Oh, of course, Triangle Veg Fest Expos, and Virtual Veg Fest. You can enter our contest. You can go to virtualvegfest.com, click the little contest tab, and you can win prize packs that are really cool. It's October 27th. That means you have 4 days left to enter the October contest. And we really appreciate if you do that. And of course, if you go and watch this on YouTube or just go to YouTube, go to the Vegan Stew, click subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. The little bell also to get notified when we go live, which is Wednesdays at 7 p.m., except for the first Wednesday of the month. Why? Because we need a planning meeting and somebody else goes live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. on a Virtual Veg Fest Live. So, topic today, veganism and COVID. Pretty excited about that. It's going to be a pretty deep topic, and we all kind of agree on our feelings here, but maybe we won't today. I don't know. We will see. So let's bring everybody in, and let's see. We have Kimberly Winters of Did You Bring the Hummus podcast. We have Sangeeta, Tilted Planet on YouTube. We have Marla Rose of Vegan Street. We have Laura Ball from Plant Powered Studios. Smile, Laura. And we have Katya from Total Body Lab, who's our new person joining us. Yay! So I'm going to throw it at Marla. Let's do some current events and some news. And Laura and Marla, there's Laura. I think she froze for a moment.
Totally
now she's
frozen
smiling.
for a minute. Sorry, guys.
It's okay. So Marla, start us off with our current events and news, and Laura, you'll chime in as well.
Yeah, well, it's been kind of a slow news week, but I thought this was interesting. So my family were big into Halloween, and on Sunday is a Halloween party at a Chicago vegan restaurant called Kill My Name, and it's just a fantastic place. But anyway, in the news, I saw this really cool story that Tabitha Brown, the huge influencer, TikTok, Instagram, she just basically owns the world. She is such a positive light. Anyway, she's opening a location of Kill My Name in Encino, California. So I just thought that was kind of cool. And I have a personal little tie to Kill My Name in that my dog, Ruby May, is litter mates with the owner of Kill My Name, adopted his son. Adopted her brother. So it's complicated. But anyway, so we're all family. But I just thought that was kind of cool. And so if you're ever in Chicago or in Southern California and you want to check it out, definitely check that out. And the Kill My Name / Tabitha Brown collaboration. But anyway, that's my news for today.
Awesome. So I have 3 things today. So the first one is my boy Will Byers on Stranger Things, also known as Noah Schnapp, has created a vegan Nutella, which he's bringing to market, which is going to be called TBH. What's cool about this that I appreciate is that it's palm oil free. Nice. And so a lot of things say they're vegan, but they're palm oil, and there's always that whole debate, well, is that vegan because of the palm oil, whole deal, which is unfortunate because it's literally in everything. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was really cool that he made sure that it was excluding that. So props to Noah. So that's my first topic. My second topic is Manchester United. Gorgeous men with man buns are now going to be wearing vegan football sneakers. So Paul Pogba has designed his very own vegan football boot. And he is partnering with Adidas and Stella McCartney on that, which is pretty exciting. So again, furthering our mission, that is very, very awesome news. My third topic for today is Abbott's Butcher just closed its funding, and a few of the investors were none other than Owen Wilson and Woody and Laura Harrelson, which I thought was very awesome. And I love that company because they were founded by Carrie Song, who's an animal activist, in 2017. So props to all of those people making a difference and furthering the veg economy.
So one thing about Adidas, and this is not going to bode well for Adidas. Have you heard of the Kangaroo movie?
Yes, I saw that.
Right? So
Yeah.
the Kangaroo movie, Australia, they're awesome, absolutely awesome. I did a talk with them, which is interesting to do a talk with Australia because they were the next day in the morning and I was at night here. So they mentioned to me when I first started talking to them about Adidas, and that there are companies in this country, the United States, that are using kangaroo in their shoes. And we don't know that, but now you do because Adidas is one of those companies.
Wow.
So great. Thank you for doing a vegan shoe. Can you please remove the kangaroo from any of your products that are anywhere in the world? And that's part of what the Kangaroo movie is bringing awareness to. Ooh, Katya, tell us what you have to say.
This makes me super upset because I literally am almost done writing a vegan powerlifting guide that has all of the equipment that I use that is cruelty-free. And one of the shoes is, guess what? It is Adidas. It is Adi Power 3. It is a very classic powerlifting shoe that's proven its, goodness throughout the years. And now there may be kangaroo in it. That's just amazing.
And I don't know which shoes, but they do that. And what the Kangaroo movie, the producers actually want us to do, which I haven't done because it was something like in the Plant-Based Network days that I wanted to really focus on, was to do a petition to send to Adidas to say stop. And there's other corporations here. I mean, it's a kangaroo. don't no, it's almost like as bad as like saying like the koala bear fur beat is here. No, stop. So there's a whole big thing, and that you can watch that live show on Virtual Veg Fest Live and the YouTube. You can go find it. But maybe that's another focus that we can do. And just a little tidbit, Marla, I think I saw something go up.
Yeah, it's my seasonal star. I was just going to say that the clothing industry, as much as like we've made so much ground with the food industry with regard to more vegan options, the clothing industry is so much more backwards and has so much more room for growth. I mean, while there have been a lot of designers who've stopped using fur and that sort of thing, there's just so much more that needs to happen, and so it's actually a lot slower than many of the other industries. So like I definitely recommend, as much as you're able, to thrift, but obviously specialized items like weightlifting things that would be hard to buy secondhand. But anyway, that's one way around all of that.
When I would say the one that's even growing slower probably than the fashion industry is the interior design industry. That one is known for just, from leather to wool to, vinyl, all that stuff, especially for healthcare applications. It's detrimental to the planet. And that's why I've been super excited the last few years to see that, because sometimes they do parallel fashion and interior design naturally, especially in the textile world, is all the new vegan leathers. That's been really exciting to me. The one that, I'm excited about, I'm here for all of them, but the one that I'm very excited about because of my past history was mushroom leather, because that has inherently antimicrobial properties. So now instead of using vinyl or polyurethane as an application for healthcare, they can now use this as a supplement. So then it meets all the healthcare standards for disinfecting, which is very cool.
That's fabulous. I was going to say, I'm sorry.
I was going to segue to Kimberly, because Kimberly actually did a podcast interview with an interior designer. and
Oh,
spoke about this. So sorry,
Yeah.
Marla, we'll go to you.
Oh, no.
I knew that Kimberly was gonna I was like, if you didn't jump in, I was gonna make you jump in.
Yeah, so not only did I do an interview with Risha Walden of Walden Interiors here in New Jersey, and she is a vegan interior designer. There's also coming up, I think it's next week, I'll check, and if I find the link, I'll put it in the comments. There's a full week called the Vegan Interior Design Week, and there's going to be talks all day long, and Risha will be one of those presenters, but there's a woman who has a fully vegan resort in Greece that has just opened, and I think she's one of the keynote speakers. But it's people are trying and they're working on it, so it's slow, but yeah, it's happening, and they're making leather out of like cactus too.
And
That was
pineapple
something I learned from her.
Yeah, it's
so
crazy.
Cool.
Yeah.
Leather is the new vegan milk.
New potato milk, right?
I mean, it has to be, right? Because it is all one industry if you look at it. Right?
Yeah.
So once you do not have cows being raised for milk, then you won't have as much of leather available to make other things from that.
Well, and the interesting thing about leather is that some cows are bred for leather specifically. So if you have what's called a top grain leather, that's a high leather, which means that the cows are not close to any barbed wire fencing, because the lower grade leathers or the suede or the hides, you'll see the bug bites, you'll see where they brushed up against barbed wire, and that's the product of the meat industry, and that typically comes from Brazil, for example. Now, the European leather is more expensive because they don't use that type of wiring to use it specifically for that high top grade leather.
I didn't know that, but
yeah,
I didn't know that either.
That's incredibly interesting. Marla, go ahead.
I am the one who is abiding by the rules here. No kidding.
Sorry, Marla.
I have to because I'm such an interrupter. It's terrible. I was just going to say, I don't have the statistics and facts in front of me, but the industries like the wool industry and the leather industry buttress and support the meat industry. The meat industry has very thin margins. And without having these other avenues to sell these different products, and that leather is one of the most profitable aspects of this industry. And like, as Sangeeta said, they're all one. They all are interdependent. And so anyway, it's just food for thought when you think that these are just harmless byproducts. They're actually co-products. They're necessary for all of that. So.
No, thank you. Thank you. Ladies, do you have anything else you want to share for current events and news? Because I think we're going to take a lot of time on our topic tonight.
I'm super excited about it.
Okay, so we got Sangeeta and Katya. Sangeeta, go first.
I don't have current events per se, but we have Diwali next week, and we don't have a show next week. So we celebrate Diwali in a very vegan way, and we have veganized most everything you would make in Diwali. Like a lot of snack is already vegan, like your chiuda, your chaklis, your shakarparas. A lot of them are already vegan. The things that are not used to be vegan have been all veganized. And to the viewers, I would recommend check out Vegan Richa. She has an amazing blog where she has veganized things like gulab jamuns and roshagulla that you would not normally even think of how to make vegan. So she's veganized all that. So happy Diwali and a compassionate Diwali.
Thank you. Katya?
Yeah, thank you. Two quick news. One, if anybody lives close to DC or Ashburn, Virginia, there's one of the biggest and most exciting competitions to watch there. It's going on November 6th and 7th, 2 days, and I will be competing there. It's called Winter Wrecker. It's a powerlifting meet. So some of the strongest people in the country go there. So if you live close, support, go. Let's hang out. And the second news is vegan. So it's McDonald's. I don't know if you heard about it. They're testing a plant burger in collaboration with Beyond.
Mm-hmm. Would you try it? Who would do it? Who would go and give McDonald's money?
They're not gonna put it on the vegan bun with vegan cheese. It's like what is it? The breakfast place from
Dunkin' Donuts.
Dunkin' Donuts. Yeah, I was so excited when they introduced an Impossible, and I come back by the thing, and I'm like, oh, is it patty on the
just make
vegan
a donut.
bun? No,
I don't care about any of that other shit. Make a donut.
Marla's got her priorities. She's like, forget the vegan meat, just make a donut.
Exactly. That's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, I guess it's good if you're traveling and you need something like really fast, like that type of thing.
To me, it just doesn't make business sense. Like that's what I can't eat it because of the gluten. I can't eat it because of the gluten, but to me, it frustrates me from a business perspective. It's just like, make a freaking vegan donut. It's not that hard.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, I'm tired of all the fast food companies coming out with these vegan options, but they're not for vegans. Right. They're for people that aren't vegan, that are just like, oh, what the hell? I'll try one and see what the hype is about, or I'm going to replace that one meal. And I still love that people are doing that. I mean, it's all for the movement, the mission, the greater good, whatever you want to call it. But it's frustrating because it's like, even if I am traveling, even if I get that, I know it's probably touched something I don't want it to.
Right.
And there's no vegan cheese. Come on.
Right. There's no vegan cheese. There's no vegan bun. There's no vegan mayo. There's no vegan anything.
Right.
So are you just going to wrap the patty
lettuce
into the plastic or whatever they do for me?
Exactly.
Right.
It's just frustrating.
We have gone too far for me to eat a plain patty. No,
I can't go back.
Well, and like Laura said, it's for the people that are not. And what I really love is that they'll see the names Beyond, they'll see the names Impossible, and when they go to the grocery store, they'll see Beyond and Impossible there. And if they remember that they liked it, they may pick that up and buy it. And that's next to the animal hamburger, the animal-based meat. And they may be like, well, I like this. They might not even know what it is, but they liked it and they may buy it. And that's huge. That's the whole reason that it doesn't exist for vegans. It exists for actually saving the animals.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Marla, do you have something to say before we move on?
I was just real quick, because I know we're getting into an important topic, but I was just going to say one of my frustrations is when a big brand that's got like locations everywhere that's not vegan, test market a single vegan item in their whole thing, but it's like at 5 locations outside of Atlanta, and for whatever reason the vegan media goes ape shit about promoting it, and it's just like, do we need to jump through hoops to show our enthusiasm? Like I don't feel like we should be giving all this free publicity to these multi-million dollar companies. I do understand that the bind that the vegan media is in, because they're all trying to scoop each other, and I get that. I'm not naive about that, but I still feel like, oh great, it's in 5 locations outside of Atlanta, yet this thing gets shared 50,000 times, and you're trying to talk to people about substantive matters, and everyone's like, hey, did you notice that KFC has Beyond at like 3 locations? So it's like, but it's just more of a statement, I guess, about what captures attention today. So anyway, I'll just.
Well, it sucks too, because if you go, they're sold out every time. Like every time, by the time you get there, it's not there anyway. And some, meat eater who doesn't really care probably got it before you. And that's what's frustrating for me. But either way, I mean, I'm like, the fryer, it all goes in the same fryer. And I feel like crap anyway afterwards. So just give me an iceberg salad, and I'll call it a day.
And then do you want to be the vegan eating the iceberg salad?
No, absolutely not. Because I'm like, great, am I going to get E. coli from the salad? It's just awful.
That would be just my luck.
Right? Exactly. A vegan getting E. coli from lettuce.
Iceberg lettuce, no less.
Exactly.
It has
Pure
no
water.
nutritional
Zero
properties but
nutritional
water.
value.
Right?
Exactly. You might as well eat celery lettuce. That's what they're calling it.
Oh man.
Okay, let's go. Let's delve into a really important topic from iceberg lettuce.
Yes.
Speaking of diseases.
Well, the topic this week is veganism and COVID, and it is a topic that has touched all of us. And if it hasn't touched you, then where have you been? Because it has been almost 2 years. And for me, doing in-person festivals and having just come back, and Katya was with me for 19 days on the road, doing 3 events in 2 states over 3 weekends. And then in August, we did 2 events over 2 weekends in 2 states. Yep, because we were in South Carolina and Tennessee. And hey, Dilla, thanks for joining us. So it has been difficult for numerous reasons. Producing events is difficult and stressful just with normal times. And then you add COVID and you add potential people getting sick or dying. And thanks, Stella. People potentially dying or getting sick because they attended your event, which the last headline that I want is super spreader COVID at vegan festival is the last thing that any of us want, because they won't focus on the COVID, they'll focus on the vegan. And it's not the type of publicity that any of us want. And then you've got the vendors or people that are not vaccinated who refuse to wear masks. And you've got the supply chain issues, which are massive right now, which impact the vendor's ability to purchase the things that they need to sell or the vessels they need to sell food in. And then there's staffing issues, which were not impacted by people getting money from the government because of unemployment. That's not what the problem was. The problem is that, and that's a whole other show that we can talk about, employers not paying people well and not treating people well. So people aren't going back to those jobs. And I don't necessarily know if that's what it is for our vendors, if that's what it is, but there's staffing issues, especially in the food industry, which impacted food at the events as well. And I have been around, Katya too, we've been around thousands of people in the last month. And we get tested when we come home, and we tested negative. And then you've got the people I'm not friends with anymore because they're anti-vaxxers. And that's what the last year and a half has been. And the disinformation, the government, hey, Susan. Yep, Susan was with us as well. There's so many. There's the concerts that Kimberly and I both didn't go to because of COVID. One of my favorite groups in the whole world, Squeeze, was at DPAC. And they, until the day of, were not going to have any type of guidelines for COVID. And I got my money back for the tickets. And I'm annoyed that I've done the right thing. I wear my mask, I social distance, I'm cautious, I hand sanitizer, wash my hands, don't leave the house. and I feel like I'm stuck in a box, and the anti-vaxxers and the people who just don't give a shit or think this is real are out there living their lives like there's nothing going on. And we have literally seen them. Susan, Katya, and I have literally seen the people. Susan and I were in Costco in Knoxville, Tennessee in August. And I was like, we need to get the fuck out of here. Mm-hmm. I said, this is COVID. This is just COVID all around us. No masks, packed. I said, we don't need to be here. We were masked. Really, in Knoxville, we were the only people masking in August. Every restaurant we went into, any place we went to, we were the only people with masks on. Tennessee, at one point, was the global leader in COVID cases.
Are you serious?
In August.
And that's exactly when we were there?
That's when we were, yep. Yeah, Nashville, I think, was the global leader at that point.
We're number one. Yeah.
And, this touches home, and I can't wait to hear what all of you have to say and your feelings and that impact. And if you have questions or comments and you're watching us, please feel free to write them in the box, and we definitely address them. We're all looking at the comments while we're live. But who wants to? Okay, Laura, go for it.
Does anybody here like their box? Because I love being in a box. Like Helene said, I feel like I'm trapped in a box. I love my box. Now that I know what it's like to be like a retired old man, I don't want my life to be any other way. I just absolutely love it. Like I choose who I talk to, who I want to hang out with. After 2016, with or without COVID, I probably would have been in my own box anyway, because people just completely pissed me off. And the whole COVID thing is really, you know, to me, and the reason I feel like it's really not going away is Mother Nature wants us to go to our room and think about what we've done. You know, that's really the best analogy that I've ever heard, because it's so true. And look at all the positive things that have happened, you know, when we were all locked inside, because of the effect that the pure effect that we have just living our day-to-day capitalistic lives. And, you know, a lot of this stuff is so awakening to all of us. And I think it's now kind of coming to a head where you have, you know, kind of who I would call the idiots. And then you have the people that just want to, you know, live their lives and try to heal and figure out how to, you know, live with this pandemic, because it's probably not going away. The RNA coding and the virus, 300,000 ways it can mutate, you know? And so this is going to be the new flu, but it's going to be more deadly and it's going to wreak havoc. And that's just the reality. And that's part of climate change. So that's my soapbox.
Yeah, it's endemic. It's not a pandemic. It's quickly turning to endemic, which is what the flu is. So everybody get used to it and get used to getting vaccinated yearly, multiple times. Katya, go for it.
Yeah, so when you said that at some point when we were in Tennessee and Tennessee was a global leader, I just tried to pull up the death toll in Russia, and I can't find the right information. I mean, it's like whatever the government says versus whether the Western media says that they think is right versus what is actually right. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to stop looking at my phone. But when I was there in the summer, the COVID started climbing up again, and I was freaking out. And nobody around me, I mean, life was normal. Like, when did I land there? I landed there May 26th, 28th of this year. And you remember how life was here in May, right? Mm-hmm. This was the first week that I think the mask mandate, sorry, I'm thinking Russian words in my head, making mistakes. That was the first or second week that the mask mandate was taken off. And we were like, oh, I can be in public and I don't have to have a thing over my face. And I land in Russia, and it seemed like COVID has never, ever happened. Mm-hmm. The only place that people wore masks was the subway, and subway was packed. I mean, I did the normal thing is when you come to a restaurant, I would mask up until I sit at the table, and my girlfriends were like, nobody's masked anyways. Why do you do this? And I'm like, because half of you are unvaccinated, and probably the majority of the people here are too. And like, it's just etiquette, you know, walking to the table. Anyways, explaining how we do things here to my friends and acquaintances got really frustrating. And at one point, I was just like, you know, screw it. I guess I'm vaccinated, but people are looking at me like I'm some sort of an alien if I wear a mask inside, probably outside of my closest friends. So I guess I got really frustrated, stayed home with my parents, got as much as possible, got tested 3 times and flew back. Oh, and you know what? Another really crazy thing. The US, everybody was required to have a 3-day test before you board, right? Mm-hmm. Has anybody traveled during COVID? Raise your thing. I'm curious. How many of you traveled? 1. Wow. That's it? Okay, we got 1 outside of country traveler. My mind was blown that it was so official on all of the US websites that we're not going to board you without a PCR test. People were standing with their PCR tests in hand in Amsterdam when I was having a layover. They were like, all right, you have your tests, fill out the form. So some lady gave us a form to fill out saying that we took the test, but nobody checked the test. And they said that would be done when we land. You know what we landed? Nothing happened. Mm-hmm. Like, people are grabbing their luggage and they were going in New York. I think I landed in JFK, and it was a huge plane and nobody checked our anything. You literally had a person's agreement to check their test and that they took the test. Nowhere on that paper did it say, was your test negative so you can board the plane now? Nothing at all. So my frustration was, I mean, a lot of frustrations were with Russia and with traveling too with the US, is how we're literally letting everybody in without quarantine and then they're just free to go. Free. How did we do that?
Well, that's why New York had so many people die. But that was before there was any rules. That's like really scary. Sangeeta, your
And so
experience?
I went to India in July, and they did check our COVID test results. In fact, I was annoyed that they were checking it that so many times. And then they also took our temperatures. So they did that when I went to India. But to what Katya said, I have a friend from Belarus also, and she
Right.
was saying that it's the same thing over there. Nobody wears masks. Nobody, and there in that part there is even more vaccine hesitancy
Yes.
because people do not trust their government, and they have really good reasons to not trust the governments.
Yep. I agree.
Marla?
But there's so many things I have to say, but I want to keep it really concise. Well, one point I just want to make right away is, I heard a story on NPR the other day about Johnson & Johnson. I'll just try to keep it really short, but basically the baby powder that they sold to many generations of people for many, many years is the subject of a class action lawsuit because it had asbestos in it. So they basically started another, like almost like a shell company that in Texas, so that all of the suit money could come from that rather than Johnson & Johnson, and they could claim that they have no more money legitimately because of Texas's lax laws. And we know about the pharmaceutical industry and the cruelty to, say, Black people throughout many years, and the government's working with that. My point is not to slam the pharmaceutical industry, but to say that they are factoring, they have a responsibility for the distrust that people have, that some people have. Some people are just out of their minds. Let's just face that. But there is a basis in not trusting the pharmaceutical industry because of things like that. So I just want to say that, from the beginning, they're not innocent little, sweet little, angels. I have lost friends over the COVID, over the vaccine thing, friends that go way, way back with me, because I refuse to just simply live and let live about this. It's too important to me. I refuse to just, difference of opinion about it, because it is too, it's too important. The last thing I want to say is, like, how can people hear these stories about nurses crying, desperately exhausted, just clinging to their last hopes, and be indifferent to it? Like, and I don't know, like, obviously not everyone follows the same media as each other, but how can you hear that? How can you hear about the ERs overcrowded now with not just COVID people, but with people who did not get the critical care that they needed over this time because they were afraid to go into hospitals? So now have serious cases of cancer, and they're on gurneys in hospital hallways because there is no room. So it's just, that is part of the anti-vaxxers needing to own in what they've done. And the last thing I just want to say really quick is I saw a video last night. This woman who's 47 years old, 5 children, single mother, a TikTok, compilation of her and her anti-vax commentaries from the beginning when she first started showing symptoms to the end when she's intubated. and her last dying breaths are all railing against the vaccine. And literally, last breaths on her deathbed, she died. I don't know how people can see that. I know a lot of people just turn it into, oh, that's a conspiracy, it's fake news. I think at this stage, if somebody is still promoting anti-vax rhetoric, they're too far gone, and we just have to focus on those we can reach. So anyway, that's all I can say about it.
Sangeeta?
Yeah, my thought about that is that this whole COVID thing, it is come. It is come because we have too much of population, and that population has somehow to go down. And so I guess I don't know what to think of it other than, well, our population has to go down, and therefore there are going to be these people. I know that they should know better, but they just don't get it because for whatever reason they are supposed to die that way. It is unfortunate, but and I've seen cases, and I have heard cases of people just refusing to have that fear of COVID. And if you do not have fear, then you're going to put yourself, if you do not have a healthy fear of something that's going to kill you, then you're going to die. And I've seen that even before there was vaccine. And that's my theory, that some people are just going to die because they are not capable of having that fear.
You know, it's hard to argue with someone who says it's God's will. It's God's will. If it's my time, it's my time. You know what's God's will? He created a vaccine. He put things in front of you for you to help save yourself that you're completely ignoring because you're kind of going with, well, I'm sorry, I don't care how much you believe in God or don't believe in God, but that's, to me, not what that is. God doesn't heal your physical health. You make the choices to heal your physical health by your choices and what you do in life that are put in front of you in whatever path that you're on with whatever you believe. And if you believe in God, then you need to pay attention to the signs. And one of those signs is deadly pandemic, deadly virus. How do I offset this? You've been given masks. You've been given vaccinations. You've been given social distancing, hand sanitizer, soap. You've been given like all these things. Let me see what Philip is saying. Let's see. Katya is on her phone now. Is there a quote? God helps those who helps themselves. Yep. Exactly. God helps those who helps themselves. And it's incredibly frustrating because when a vendor says something like that to me, I don't want to be insulting and say you're dumb. like what's wrong with you? Like, you're making this choice that you could lose your life because of this choice. And I don't know if Katya and Susan, if she's still watching, that one of the employees at one of our venues died of COVID, like not too long before or after we were there. And I didn't know until I got like an email because I had to pay a bill, and I did some snooping to try and figure it out, and because I want to know what happened. And her boyfriend or husband were really sick. She became brain dead. Probably, I'm making the assumption they weren't vaccinated, and there was a lot of in the group that was created for them that was obviously for support to help them get through it. There was a lot of God this and God that. And I understand, I believe in God, but I don't believe in that. And I live with someone who doesn't believe. So Kimberly, go ahead.
I'd like to know, especially with those who are kind of using God and all that to explain why they don't need to get vaccinated, why they're not afraid, is that if you read all the books that talk about what God had to say, it seemed like everyone is God's children, not just them. So then why are we not worried about the collective? Why are they not worried about the people that they're going to get sick when they don't get vaccinated and they're just out living life like there's nothing happening? Why is there not a concern that way? And why do they get to decide that they get to spread this to people who are trying to be careful and who are trying to consider the greater good? I was telling Helene before we logged in that, you know, I was supposed to go to a concert. My husband and I have not been out at an event since like January of 2020, and maybe even before that. And it's our favorite band there, and the lead singer is vegan. He's so cool. But we didn't go. Last minute we decided not to go because Pennsylvania doesn't have any restrictions. You don't have to be vaccinated or show a test, which I think is bullshit, but whatever. And the place was packed. And so not only were we considering, and we are both vaccinated, not only were we considering like we don't want to get sick and be in that environment, but also like if we did get sick, like what if one of us winds up in the hospital and we're taking up a space that someone who has a medical condition that could be treated or cured, or they could be healed by taking that bed instead of us. And you know, last June my dad had a heart attack and he had to go into a hospital, and we were scared, and he had to be alone. No one could go see him, and like we didn't know what was happening, and we didn't know if he was going to get COVID and wind up not with us anymore. And thankfully he is, and you know, he recovered and everything. But the idea that it's like this is my right and it's my body, like fuck off. This is about all of us. Seriously. That's it.
And can I just say, this is what women have been saying for how long? And now all of a sudden the sheeple are coming out of the woodwork, you know? Oh, it's my body, my choice. Well, welcome to the club, sweetheart. You know, grab a number, stand in line, you know?
Yep.
Show me on the stall where I hurt you.
I'm going to just jump in and say that none of these people are pro-choice to begin with. So anyway, I'll jump out now.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's what's so ironic. And that's what drives me nuts is the majority of these people, I always joke, you know, with George Bush, that every child was left behind. And that's why we are so dumb as a population now, is it had a lot to do with our educational system and how much our education actually has declined. And we're supposed to be this all-powerful country, but we're a country full of idiots. I mean, and this is Exhibit A, right? And, you know, there's all free power, free will. You have your rights, whatever. I'm fine with that. You know, Obama's not going to take your guns. Michelle Obama can show her shoulders. You know, that's what drives me nuts, is it's only a problem when it's a problem for them. And that's what drives me insane. And to the whole God, goddess, whatever you freaking believe in, one thing's consistent: love your neighbor. You know, take care of each other, because we are all on the same team. We're all part of humanity. It doesn't matter where you live, your race, your gender. It doesn't matter. What matters is, are you hurting somebody? And if you're hurting somebody, then we all should have a problem with it. And that's what really bothers me, is just ignorance, and that they're proud of their ignorance. And, you know, in 2016, I was like, great. I weeded everybody out because I'm a Bernie supporter, right? So everybody's going to be out. And by the time COVID came around, I was so amazed to see how many vegans were anti-vax. That's what really got me, because we're supposed to be pro-life, right? We value, we cherish life, yet you don't want to save that? You know, that's just crazy to me.
Yeah, some of them overemphasize on use of animals in testing. I mean, I get that, but there are many medications that I have to take, and they were also tested on animals. So they are life-saving though. So we have to get to a future state where we are not testing on the animals. That is for sure. But in today's world, you unfortunately cannot avoid that 100%.
Exactly.
Katya?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me fine?
Mhm.
Oh, sorry about that. So yeah, in this country, it's interesting how anti-vax like crowd is very different from like other countries. Because in Russia, I guess people are overall relatively educated, but even like the more like liberal and educated crowds sometimes will believe in total snake oil. And it's very interesting how that just kind of coexists in one person, and that is the majority of the country. Um, so to me, I don't really get how maybe it's from non-trust into the government and the anecdotal experience um, of some success, and then people believe like, oh, okay, because they share stories. Pretty much almost every single anti-vax friend of mine back home, they would be like, well, I could get vaccinated, but a friend of mine got one. And they ended up in intensive care. And then another friend of mine, actually, she was a nurse, so she had to take a vaccine. You know what? 2 days later, she got COVID and died. So, like, people would just share stuff like that. And I guess a lot of them want to take a vaccine, for example, but they want to have options. There's no options back home right now. The only vaccines that are available, I think, are like 5 Russian ones and 1 Chinese. And now we're in lockdown again, or they are in lockdown in the States.
Yeah. Wow.
But now they're in lockdown, but the lockdown is called a non-working week. And that's how the government is evading giving people monetary or any kind of support, because they call it, I think last year they called it extended holidays, when there was like the 1st of May, the Labor Day, global Communist Soviet Labor Day. So they celebrated that for 10 days straight. That was a little vacation. Now we have non-working days, which means that hits a small business the most, because there's no support. We're supposed to pay people salary, but people can't go to work. So people sit at home, and who's supposed to pay them salary? The businesses that do not have employees that need to come and work, and like, you just literally are destroying the economy by destroying the small business. And I don't know what the out from that, because nobody believes anybody, and government comes up with these interesting, very surprising measures. Almost every time we have to have a lockdown.
Marla?
Yeah, I was just going to say a few things. One is, just as we're learning more and more, we've known for years, but learning more and more how influential algorithms are in our bubbles, and just that clicking on certain kinds of articles rather than other articles, or liking certain groups rather than other groups, you're going to start to see that more and more and more in your feed, and on social media, on Facebook in particular. And that the more that happens, the more entrenched your attitudes get, and the more confused you get about actual reality. And I think that the fact is that we are, on the left, as susceptible to that kind of algorithm echo chamber as anyone, but the fact is that we're following actual scientific known fact. But the other thing I was going to mention is just with the aspect of animal testing, I'm sure everyone here has worked, donated, signed petitions, tried to educate about the cruelty of vivisection, animal testing in laboratories. The fact is that this has existed long before any of us did. We're trying to support organizations that are trying to make that obsolete. It's not the most functional. It's not the most productive. It's not the most reliable way of testing. And we're just not there yet. As those of us who are vegan, who have been vegan for a long time know, it's a big, long story, to get from point A to point B. It takes a while. People are working on it. The fact is that we live, as we know, all of us, we live in a desperately imperfect world, and we sometimes have to do the best choices in that very flawed world that we can. The last thing I was going to say about animal testing is that because this vaccine didn't go through the same route that other vaccines do, that the various vaccines, because it was speeded up a bit because of the danger and the emergency of the situation. There were actually fewer animals killed in the making of these various vaccines because it didn't go through all the rigmarole of other vaccines to get to market. But every country, from the United States to the United Kingdom, that has an FDA, that has medicines that reach the market, they all go through this. So there's no stepping around it. So if, for example, you have asthma through no fault of your own, you're not supposed to use an inhaler because that was probably tested, that was released to market using animal testing.
Right.
Or if you have a deadly allergy, you're not supposed to use an EpiPen to make a statement of some sort. But so anyway, that's just my whole point. It's just, we live in a flawed world and we're doing the best we can with it.
Yeah, Marla, you should smoke gypsum weed for your asthma, right?
To me, it's the dumbest argument on the planet, because if you tell me that you get cancer or you break your leg or you get an emergency car accident and you go to the hospital, that you're going to be conscious enough to say, no morphine, no chemo, no cast, so I can heal, no surgery and no anesthesia when you do the surgery because I'm vegan. Look, it says it, I'm vegan, right? No, don't do that. That's not what veganism is. And this is something when Marla and I went live, we talked about. It's doing the best that you can in this imperfect world. And we have to make choices. Like if I get a slight headache, do I run to the Tylenol? No. But if my head is pounding, yes. Because I can't function if I don't get rid of the headache. And then what good am I to everything else? Plus, we don't live in a vegan world. So do you drive a car? Do you buy groceries? How do they get to the store? By plane, by train, by bus, by truck. They're not vegan. And they're not going to be. So unless you grow your own food and you shop in a 100% vegan store that's run by 100% vegans in your local community, where you walk to that store, right, it's incredibly privileged, that none of us do unless you're off the grid, and then you're not watching this anyway, right? It's not possible. So you do the best that you can in this world. And when it comes to the vaccines, best that you can do as a vegan person or any human being is to take care of the other people, especially the ones like the children who can't get vaccinated right now and the people who cannot get the vaccine because of their immunocompromised system or they're allergic. I'm not immune to measles. So this directly impacts me when the anti-vaxxers say I'm not going to go get an MMR. Measles is back. And I'm not immune to measles. I need you all to be vaccinated so that your herd immunity makes it so that I don't get measles. It didn't take. I've had the MMR multiple times. I'm not going to do it again because it didn't take. But I need all of you to do it. I need all of you to get vaccinated for COVID because I want the people that I love who can't get it to not get it and die. I don't want the people that I know who can get it, who are immunocompromised, to get seriously ill and die. I don't want the people who already know who are long haulers. I don't want anybody else to become one because it sucks. It's horrible. There's brain issues, there's heart issues, there's stroke issues, there's just lung issues. And nobody knows why, and nobody knows for how long. And we get to learn that with them. And we can do something about it, is where my frustration is. As vegans, we should know better. Every single day we do to save the planet, the animals, and our health. And you're not doing it by not getting vaccinated. Because what good are we if we're not alive? What difference do we make? Sangeeta?
Yeah, so I want to say something that Marla also touched upon is that, yes, the process was expedited. And this argument that there has not been enough research in approving the vaccine even may be true. But you know what? We don't decide that. It's COVID that's deciding this. COVID's not gonna slow down because so that we may have enough time to research this. There are people who are dying right now. There are people who are, as Helene said, the long haulers. And in order to minimize the impact, we have to understand that we are in this situation where there is no good option. And I understand you may not want to get vaccine, but then wear a mask and maintain social distance. But you can't say that I'm not going to do either of that. I think that just, when there are so many options, you would not follow either one of them. That's very problematic, actually.
That's 100% true. I mean, wear a mask if you're not going to get vaccinated. And just so you know, the vaccines appear to be expedited, but you do realize that they were working on a vaccine for coronavirus for numerous years prior to this. It was already being made. And what they did is COVID came and they went, we're already working on this. This can work for this. Let's see if it applies. And guess what? It does.
Yes,
So
exactly.
push it to the emergency approval and get into people's arms. And there are people like me who did studies where I'm in a COVID testing study right now. And we are part of about 25, 30,000 people in this country who got the Novavax vaccine, which none of you have. And we're really testing it by being around so many people. But it's also strange because I don't have in me what you have in you. And I actually believe, Stephen and I believe, that what we have is better than what you have. Because the study is kind of showing that to us, but you can't get it yet. But we also can't fly to Europe because it's not recognized. So we're kind of in this little quandrum at the moment. But the vaccine that all of you got, whether it's J&J, Moderna, or Pfizer, had people like me who put it into their bodies a year plus ahead of you getting it, 6 months to a year. And they walked around and they went around people and they tested it so that you could get it. And they didn't drop dead. Those 30, 50 something thousand people for each study. And they're doing it right now for the booster shots as well. There are kids doing it right now to make sure it's safe for your children to get the vaccine at all. It's happening amongst you, and you have to recognize that it's not 100%. Neither is birth control. Nothing is 100%. However, I'll take 90, 95% and wear a mask and social distance and be smart. That 10% difference is in my behavior that can eliminate or lessen the possibility. Being vegan doesn't eliminate the possibility of getting cancer, heart disease, strokes, diabetes, and high cholesterol, but it mitigates it. And that's part of the reason why we do what we do, is because who wants to lessen their chances of getting those diseases? I do. Okay, follow a whole food plant-based vegan diet. It makes a difference.
Thank you, Helene, for being in the COVID research. And I also know some brave people back in India when I was growing up. They participated in a leprosy vaccine. I mean, imagine if it failed, they would have gotten leprosy. Can you imagine that? But they did for the benefit of the humanity, and it worked.
That's why, I was willing to do it for the money, just so you know, but Steven's science minded, so he looked at it and he wasn't willing to do it for the money. I was like, look, we can get this much money and we can get vaccinated before everybody else. That was my main thing, is I wanted to be vaccinated before I could potentially be vaccinated. And he was like, I need to look at the science. And obviously it was good because he said, okay, let's do it. Because there's no convincing him if the science didn't make sense. And it is the plant-based vaccine. There's a plant-based element to it, which is Novavax. And they just need
But
to
all
kind of
of
get their
them,
shit together.
all of
Go
them
ahead.
have to be tested on animals before
Right.
even the Novavax.
Yep. Oh yeah. I'm not saying that. So is so we can one day we'll touch on Beyond Meat. That was too. So, but we all eat it. So I mean, but we don't eat gelatin. So I mean,
Are you
that's an
talking about
interesting
Impossible?
conversation.
Impossible.
Oh,
Right?
impossible, not Beyond. Yeah, Impossible. Sorry, take it back. Impossible, but we all eat it. So
Next week's sponsor.
there's some trigger words for you right there. So anyone else have anything to say?
I just wanted to say really quick that all this started from eating a bat. So I just want to point that out, considering this is a vegan talk show.
Yep.
Quit eating animals, and stuff like this has a greater chance of not happening. And I just want to say again, going back to our point, is what's really disappointing to me, I think, more than anything out of all of this, is the lack of willing to help one another and have each other's backs. And there's something weird that goes on, it goes on everywhere, but really in this country, whether it has to do with healthcare, right? Or the 1% paying their taxes, or COVID vaccines, it all kind of goes back to the same thing, which is just a lack of empathy. And I find that really interesting. And that's one of the things that I think got me so down the last 2 years almost, is just seeing everybody just being out for themselves. And that's also not a very vegan move either.
Right. I mean, dying, killing other people doesn't seem like the most productive way to make a statement as a vegan. I mean, to me, the better thing would be to put together fundraisers for organizations that are trying to end animal testing, or, new technologies or something. But yeah, killing other people, going to your deathbed because of it is just, this is an imperfect world. This is what it is. We're working on it. Sorry, an emergency happened,
Yeah, exactly. And just stop spreading misinformation.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that's really gotten me is, fuck you very much, Tucker Carlson. But it's just,
oh my God.
I just, it just drives me nuts. It's just, how is that even allowed to happen, especially with such a global crisis? How is nobody not doing anything to prevent that misinformation? It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Well, let me just pose it to you as a question. Do you really think that the vaccine is so horrible? That's what they do. They don't say it. They kind of pose it as a question, and they back it up with some false information, and people eat it up. And as vegans, we don't want to martyr ourselves. Is this it? Is this where we want to martyr ourselves?
And those who are spreading this information are very much vaccinated themselves.
That is so true. The majority of the Republican congressmen, senators, whoever, they all have their vaccines. They're like, don't get it. Don't get your vaccine. Also, and I'm like, hey, pot, it's kettle. How are you?
The thing is that school board meetings are being full of people who are screaming about mask mandates on children, screaming about critical race theory, screaming about the vaccine. Do people on in the wellness community, or vegans who are do they know that they're being funneled into QAnon? Do they know that they're being funneled into ultra right-wing racist ideologies? I mean,
exactly. Like, hey, we already had this war multiple times and you always lose. So why are you trying to start it again? Like, go back in your closet. Like, that's the only time I will say that. Go back in your racist closet. I've just had it. Oh my God. And my new favorite was the private school in Miami that are making the kids that get vaccinated stay at home for 30 days.
Well, it's typical tit for tat, petty bullshit. It's like, well, I'm going to show you. if you think that I'm, dangerous, I'm going to ship you. That's the mentality. It's low information people.
Yeah.
Sorry to say, low IQ probably. I don't know.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it points back to this lack of critical thinking that's not being encouraged somehow in households and in schools.
Right.
So,
Right.
I want to just make sure that we address Millie. So, Millie, thank you for commenting in two different ways, right? So, Millie says that she'll be wearing a mask, and good, because I believe that we should normalize masks because they are in other parts of the world, and we need to do that here because, it'll help with allergies and flu and viruses and everything else, not just COVID. And I'm not taking the vaccine until they stop testing on innocent animals. Believe me, we all hear you. But we also live in a world where we want to be realistic. And I want for everyone that I love and care about, and even those that I don't love and care about, to stay alive. And I don't know if you heard us a little bit earlier for when we were talking, we said, if you got into a car accident, would you be conscious enough to say no anesthesia if you needed surgery? If Millie, you can tell me that you would martyr yourself and die, and you would go through, they wouldn't do it. First of all, they wouldn't do the surgery without anesthesia. They would give it to you. They would just knock you out and put you under and then do the surgery that would save your life, because that's what emergency medicine is. And they don't care if you're vegan. Well, they will care when you wake up and they want to serve you food, and you'll get a piece of toast and some applesauce. And that's about all you get in a hospital. So maybe some peanut butter if you're lucky. So we hear you. But we also live, as we keep saying, in a perfect world where when you have a headache, you probably take Tylenol. If you drive a car, you probably have leather in it, and your tires probably aren't vegan. And if you purchase food, it's probably getting to your supermarket in non-vegan ways. So, is the killer COVID pandemic where you draw the line? Is that where you draw the line? Oh yeah, they test all medicine animals. Yes, they do. That is the point. But do you draw the line at a pandemic that can kill everyone on the planet? Is that where your line is drawn? So that's our question to you.
That's the point. That's the point we are making, right?
Right. So please get vaccinated, because this isn't the hill to die on. There are other hills that you may or may not want to die on. This one is not just, you probably won't be the one to die, but it's probably going to be someone that you spoke to or breathed on or coughed on or whatever.
And it's agonizing. It's, if you've seen any of the last videos of people as they're near the end, it is an agonizing,
horrific. It's a horrible way to die. Yeah.
And every time they say, I wish I would have gotten vaccinated.
Right.
Every
and
time.
younger and younger people are
Yep.
getting it without pre-existing conditions.
Katya?
Thank you. I just want to point out like a weird discrepancy. I'm really curious what Sangeeta has to say about the Indian government vaccination versus not. Did not know that here all congressmen are vaccinated, even the ones who are advocating for not. Because in Russia, what happened was all of the government authorities were like, people would ask them, right? The reporters would ask them, hey, so which vaccine did you get? Did you get one? And they would say, oh, I'm too old to get it, or oh, they haven't tested enough yet. So obviously all the people went, duh, they're not getting it. I'm not getting it. I'll wait until the president gets it. And the president got it pretty late. Still not under cameras, so still people don't know which vaccine he got and if he got it, but he said he got a Sputnik V.
He got the antibody. He got the mono, whatever it's called, the monocro.
Oh, good, so good, because he got COVID, right? Didn't Putin get COVID?
Oh,
I think so.
I don't stay so in touch with the news. Something tells me that if he got COVID, they probably wouldn't tell that to the media. But anyways, maybe, I don't know. It's really weird how, like in Russia, the government was really skeptical about the vaccine, which got people skeptical, and most of them probably still not vaccinated. And here it's not like that. Sangeeta, how is it in India?
Yeah, so in India, the vaccine hesitancy is not as bad. Their issue really is the population and they are lucky that they can manufacture their own vaccine. Otherwise, they would have been in a real bad shape. I mean, who otherwise could manufacture 2 billion doses of vaccine for Indian people? But they got lucky because, and also one more thing is that because they have eradicated polio recently with vaccination, and they have an infrastructure to vaccinate people even in the remote part of India, and that is why they are making good strides in controlling the number. That India is doing better. I mean, they will get a third wave is predicted, but it will not be as bad as it was. The first wave in January started, and it started in the Delta variant, they say, started in my hometown. And I believe that because everyone I knew, I mean, there was not a single person I knew who was not affected in certain way. Either their family had it, or they had it, or they lost a family member, or they were hospitalized, including myself. My brother was hospitalized with COVID. So they have seen the worst of it. But then again, we are human beings with very short memory. And so when I went to India in July, people had forgotten already. Hardly anyone was wearing mask. I went to a wedding. No one was wearing mask besides me. And that's the thing. But the vaccine hesitancy, luckily, is not bad. And the politicians, there is not this division in India. They are behind the science, even the ruling party and the opposition. I think that is the key.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, they're not divided on that issue. Everyone is promoting vaccine. They're getting vaccines. And there is no doubt that, oh, this is because the Modi government, he's the popular leader right now, and the opposition is not capitalizing that he developed the vaccine, or he didn't develop the vaccine anyways. But I think that's a good thing that there is not a political division on that part. But there is still a small percentage of people who are hesitant, and that's going to be there anywhere. Yeah.
That's why the herd immunity, which we won't get to, but that's why that is so important,
Right.
is that
You
because there's
believe we're
always
going to
going
get to it?
No, I don't believe we will.
Okay.
No, we won't. We will not in this kind. I don't know if anywhere in the world will. Very few places, if they do, and they're just. It's not going to go away. And an even bigger issue is making sure the whole world is vaccinated, which isn't so easy because you have to get the vaccine to different countries, the smaller countries, the poorer countries. You have to then get the people educated enough to want to get the jab, and then there are multiple more jabs. And, here's a scary thing that happened today. If you are, I just said this to, if you're immunocompromised, I said that to someone who is today. If you're immunocompromised, they've determined that you need 4 shots, which just plays right back into the anti-vaxxers. It's never going to end. You're going to have to keep getting jabs. Well, they've learned that the third for people who are immunocompromised or is like just your normal, and then the fourth is actually your booster. And that'll make it so they're less at risk of dying, even though they're vaccinated, because of their immunocompromised systems. We're supposed to care, right? We're supposed to care about people who live amongst us who have immunocompromised systems, right? That and make sure that they don't get sick because of our own actions.
Yeah, I think that that short memories we have. I mean, what if we didn't have vaccines? And what if we had not eradicated things like polio? What kind of a world would we be living in right now? I have friends who had polio when I was growing up. I had friends, but now we don't see that kind of things because in India it has been eradicated now. My nieces probably do not know anyone who had polio. So I don't understand how you could possibly not believe in vaccine. The only reason could be the success of vaccine is what is causing people to not believe in it, because they have forgotten about these diseases.
Like, you mean all the things that we're vaccinated for to go to school, right?
Yeah.
That we're required to get, that we have like a little piece of paper or a card that says what we've been vaccinated, that you have to hand to your school as soon as kindergarten and let them know what your child's been vaccinated, because there's a vaccine record that has existed our whole lives. So a vaccine passport is nothing new. It's just a different way. It's just words. And we already do this. Like, there's nothing new here. It's just, there's just another vaccine being tallied on the
Again, my dog needs vaccine to play with another dog.
right.
So come on. To get her nails clipped, she needs a vaccine. I mean, this is not, I mean, it's not rocket science. You're just being an asshole.
Gotcha.
Oh God, that's the name of your next podcast, Laura.
Oh my God.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, Jay Law. So Jay, that is political. I hear it at work every day with non-vaccinated patients. That's a whole other few hours. If we go into the politics, we've touched on it, but go ahead, Gotcha.
I just have a question about anti-vaxxers. With the vaccines for polio and other things, do you guys know, have you done any research, whereas there was an anti-vax movement, how did those people behave, or did everybody just kind of get a vaccine and went about their day, and without social media there was less drama and less politicizing of the science?
Yeah,
How
there's
was it?
definitely been pushback against vaccines historically, and actually mask wearing during the Spanish flu, so-called Spanish flu, and that sort of thing. But generally, yeah, social media is the fuel that ignites the insanity, unfortunately. So, but yeah, there have it's been around.
Well, and it started with the autism, right? That whole autism BS where that doctor came out and said, oh, it's the mercury in the vaccines. That's what's causing autism. And that's really what I feel really started to spark it. And that's when the idiocracy started.
Right. There has, I mean, the more modern.
People just love to find something to blame. I mean, that's the thing.
Yes.
Without facts, without science, without research, just out of sheer convenience or just to piss somebody else off. I mean, people love that. I mean, that's what I've seen a lot of, whether it's a vaccine or Trump or, you know, whatever. That's the thing, is they just want to get their 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That's it's such a valid point that people, so just to touch on that autism and vaccines, just so people know, like at the time where children are getting vaccinated is about the same time when autism starts to show.
Right.
It's not correlated. It's timing. It just happens to be like they start recognizing the signs and symptoms of autism in children when you go to the doctor to get vaccinated. Because the doctor looks at your child and sees, you know, maybe they're not as verbal. Maybe they're not verbal at all. But it's not the vaccine.
Right.
It's your genes. And I hate to tell you this, but some people just shouldn't have kids because your genetics are being passed on to these kids and you're fucking them up. And that's just, you know.
I honestly think you should have to like take a test in order to, you know, have kids. I mean, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that should happen. I mean, are you able to take care of a child? My opinion.
God, I just got so scared. I was like, that sounds like eugenics. But you meant like an IQ test or something?
I mean, not just saying that some people, to Helene's point, should not have children. I mean, you have to take a test to have a gun. Why should you not have to? You have to take a test to drive a car, but yet you don't have to do anything to become a parent. You know, that's just what I'm saying.
I do hear both of your points. The one thing is that, you know, the right wing tends to outperform us in terms of having children. So that is a problem. The one thing I posted this morning, it kind of hit me like an epiphany. All the government really needs to do for the right wing to get them vaccinated is say, you know what, we've heard you. We don't want the vaccine. We're going to get these vaccines to people who want them and need them in other countries or whatever. Just make something up. These people, because their Achilles heel is that they feel victimized and they feel like that they have the right to everything. They will storm every pharmacy, every CVS, every Walgreens like the freaking Capitol insurrectionists and insist to get their God-given right to get the vaccine, that no commie libtards are going to take, overseas are going to get the vaccine instead of them. That will do it. And you will have to trust me on that because that will totally do it.
That will do it. And also one more thing is call it Trump vaccine.
Do you want to run for office? I mean, Marla, really, I'll vote for you.
Yes.
I'll put on whatever the color hat that you want to design.
Well, ladies, we are way over, but it's an incredibly important topic, and we did a great job. So thank you so much. And to everyone who's watched and joined us tonight, we really appreciate you. And we are back in 2 weeks. I don't know the topic, but we'll post it next week. We'll have our meeting next week. We'll figure everything out because it might change based on who can be there and who cannot. But we are every Wednesday except for the first Wednesday of the month at 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on the veganstew.com and your social media and YouTube, wherever you choose to watch. And you can go and you can like all our other social media because you can see next to our names what we do. So feel free to go and like everybody and be just share the love, share the love. If you love the topic of COVID and veganism, come back on Friday to virtualvegfest.com or Virtual Veg Fest on YouTube because I have a live panel with Dr. Milton Mills, Dr. Judy Brangman, Dawn Hilton Williams, and me at 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So we have a live panel discussion with some incredible people give you more reasons why this is something that you need to do. And you can ask questions of doctors who work with people who have COVID. And you can ask Dr. Judy Brangman about her getting a breakthrough case of COVID and why she still believes that you should be vaccinated. So join us and have a good couple of weeks. Don't forget to subscribe to all our channels and thank you. Everyone good?
Thanks, everyone.
And have a good night.
See you in a few weeks.
Bye.